Welcome to episode 6 of Living by Design, where real people bring real questions about how to live, create, communicate, and make money in alignment with their human design. I'm your host, Chris Pachaska. I help entrepreneurs, corporate teams, and speakers see how they're uniquely designed to profit with purpose in a way that's natural and authentic to their design, both as an individual leader and as part of a company or organization. You see, everything is energy, and we communicate energetically first and foremost. Your human design is a map of your energy. It shows how you think, experience emotions, interact with others, make decisions, live your purpose, share your ideas, market yourself, and even make money. My guest today is a manifesting generator or express builder in business terms, and we dive deep into emotional decision making, how his life theme affects his communication, and working through fears of being seen. Can you relate? A lot of my clients struggle with these things too. So grab your own human design chart and follow along. Let's dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome to this episode of Living Design Podcast. I'm so excited. I have someone who I've known for about 5 years. We were just trying to figure out about how long we've known each other, but it's like we met 5 years ago. We've known each other online, and I'm just so fun. It's so fun to welcome you here and have a deeper conversation, get to know you even better. Jon-Paul Rippetoe. So I'm going to read your bio here and introduce folks to who you are and what you're up to in the world, and then we're going to jump in. So you are an Alchemist Life Coach and the author of an Alchemist Compendium. This sounds so cool. Journey to Light and Life. So public speaking, and the co-founder of Energy Concepts, and that's Energy Concepts for You. We will put your link into the show notes so people can find you. And you take a holistic approach to providing solutions for your clients, bringing balance and bliss to their personal experience. I love that. That's exactly what we all need, right? So programs like intuitive one-on-one coaching, energy balancing sessions, creating community through small group life classes, and assisting clients with the energy of their space through interior decor consultation, energy cleansing, and clutter cleansing. I love this because, right, whatever's in our body and in our environment, they're a mirror of one another. So we'll talk about that. And you live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania with your co-creator and partner, and your cat, Sasha, and 2 dogs, Bodhi and Nikki. Oh, Bodhi. Sweet. Yeah. We were just talking about my puppy. My puppy is in surgery right now, but I think she's doing good. I think by the time we're off the phone, she'll probably be out and it'll all be good. So welcome, Jon-Paul. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Tell me a little bit about what you're up to these days and what you're creating.
Well, it's, that's a lot, in the bio. One of the things, one of my primary focuses over the next probably 6 months, I'm working on a novel.
Ooh.
And it's going to be one of 3. And it's going to be, it's fiction. Obviously, it's a novel. Yeah. But it's going to have kind of a woo-woo undertone, a little bit of, kind of a metaphysical a bit to it. And it's one of those things that I've been working on for, 100 years. And I just need to focus and get that thing done.
Focus and get it done. Okay, cool. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Anything else that, so anything else besides like all the different, what jazzes you most about what you do? Tell me a little bit about like all of those, they all go together. And some folks might go, how does that all relate? I could see how they all go together. They're all working with energy.
Yes.
And which I love talking with people who, get energy and have this conversation. I'm talking a lot about energy intelligence here. Tell me when I say energy intelligence, what does that mean to you and how you work with energy and your clients?
Well, and like I say in the bio, I try to take a holistic approach because everything, interacts, everything, our body, our physicality, our spirituality, our emotions, it all interfaces, it's all energy. For example, I had a client who came to me, she wasn't really into the metaphysical aspect of things. She's, you know, young. She's my age.
Mm-hmm.
And she was having severe medical issues to the point where she couldn't walk 100 yards without being out of breath.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't know how to deal with this. And so the way I worked with her is, okay, you keep working with your doctors
Right.
and doing what they're saying, but we're going to work on the emotional aspects and the spiritual aspects. And between the two of them, she's now back to normal.
Awesome.
And so that's what I try to look at, is how can we, with the client, because honestly, you know, what I do is nothing. It's
Right.
all my client, you know,
Right.
and
Right.
if they're willing to do the work, they're going to do amazing things. And if they're not, then they're going to end up in the same place than when we started.
Yeah.
Um, but, you know, I really try to help them dive in deep. Um, you know, I know there are a couple of schools of thought with some of the darker energy. You know, why some people say, why would you look at that? I'm of the idea that, you know, what you sweep under the carpet trips you up. So
Yeah.
let's bring it up and out. Not that we
Exactly.
need to dwell on it, but just let's bring it up. Let's look at it. Let's deal with it, and let's get rid of it.
Yeah.
And so
Exactly.
that's, you know, and that interfaces with, you know, them. And we can also, you know, like you said in the bio, we can work with the energy of their home, their office, whatever that looks like, because
Yeah.
it all interfaces, it all
Yeah.
interacts.
Exactly. Exactly. As within, so without, and vice versa. And what I hear in there around the energy intelligence is understanding or acknowledging that the body and the spirit have an intelligence, um, and and so does the energy field. And when we bring all of that together, including our environment, everything it creates the environment for transformation to occur. Of course, we as the client or as the individual need to choose it,
Right.
which is what you were talking about, but that you facilitate that and help your clients to see what they need to do to become more present and aware to all of these things without judgment of, ooh, that's bad, or that's good, or this is okay, or that's not okay. It's really,
It
you
is,
know,
right.
allowing energy is just energy, and it's often our constructs about it, right, that change it.
Exactly. And it's interesting because, you know, I actually try to avoid the term negative energy,
Right.
because that is a judgment.
Yeah.
There's this energy that's out of alignment with who you are or who you want to be.
Yeah.
Um, and
That's nice. Yeah.
uh, Debbie Ford, in her books, you know, she talks about the dark side of light chasers. One of the
Right.
things that I love about her books is, you know, we have these personality traits that we look at as negative,
Right.
air quotes, that aren't negative. You know,
Yeah.
being angry is a viable option. In certain instances, it's needed. You know, but we look
Exactly.
at anger, and that, for me personally, that's one of my big ones. You know, growing up, I had really bad anger issues, and I learned to stuff them. And
Mm.
I'm now decades later going, oh, that's not good.
Right.
Let's deal with that.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's take a look at your human design and talk about some of these things, because I think I love that you brought up Debbie Ford and you brought up the dark side of the light chasers, because one of the things that I love about human design, and it's really been a super powerful distinction for me, is understanding that shadow is built into our design. So when we look at the design, it's like a circuit board, and it's a mechanical type of thing. It's not just that it's our personality or something. It's really a map of our energy and how it flows, and where we will take in the energy of others, amplify that energy, or where we can get distracted and pulled off course. And the interesting thing about the shadows and distractions in our design is that that's often where we're designed to make money, or at least attract people to us, because we have wisdom there around what works and what doesn't work, because
Right.
we've kind of had to figure out the hard way what that is. And yeah, so you were talking about one of the questions, or one of the things that you were saying earlier is, well, I guess that when I asked you what's flowing in your work, what would you say is flowing for you? Where are you kind of like, yeah, I'm in a groove, this is flowing? And It's
Well,
easy for you. You can tap in.
well, it's interesting, especially with, with the novel that I'm working on. Um, the concepts, the ideas, the characters,
Mm-hmm.
scenes actually come to me at night.
Mm.
And I'm very fortunate that I'm able to remember them the next day.
Yeah.
I know not everybody does that, but I think that I honestly think that's the universe going, no, this needs to come through you,
Right.
and that's why I'm able to remember it. And so I've got a notebook that I've started with. Book 3, it's going to include this, and book 2 is going to include this,
Yeah.
because this stuff is not coming in order.
Mm.
So that stuff is um, really flows. And the other thing that really flows for me with my writing is when I actually sit down and write,
Mm-hmm.
it goes.
Mm.
I can sit down and I'm very, very blessed to have that ability to just sit down and just start typing.
Yeah.
And that's my process. There's no outlines. It just starts going.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those are the easy flows.
Easy flows. I love that. What about in your marketing or your, just day-to-day life? What else is flowing for you? Where else do you kind of go, oh, yeah, it's working?
That's the tough question.
I know, right? Well, okay, is it a tough question because you're like, here's where I want it to be, and it's here, but that gap, maybe the gap is only here, it's a small tiny gap, and you're like, I really want it to be up here, and it's more of a judgment that way, or is it like,
Yeah, we're talking Grand Canyon.
okay, yeah, tell me about that. Tell me
No,
about.
and it's because I've got a lot of stuff that I have going on. I do the energy work, I do the coaching, I do the writing, I've got photographs that I sell. My husband and I have an energy retail business that we have, plus a full-time job.
Yeah.
And so it's a matter of, for me, it's a matter of making priorities. And I actually, it's interesting. I actually had a little bit of an aha moment that because of some of the stuff that happened the way I was raised,
Mm-hmm.
I have a very strong visceral fear at certain times of being seen.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
and that shows up in my marketing. That shows up in, I have my website.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't sent out very many emails this year. I haven't done any blog posts this year. I haven't done any vendor shows because I would, but there's one particular person that I work with on vendor shows, and she has 2 dates in the Pittsburgh area, and I'm out of town for both dates.
Right.
But it's one of those things where how do I fit in putting out a speaking engagement, and I'm working 40 plus hours plus everything else that I have going on.
Right.
So it's a matter of making those priorities.
Mm-hmm.
And just be honest, it's a matter of putting down the cell phone and stepping away from Facebook and stop watching Big Bang Theory and
I know, right? We have our things.
right. And honestly, I think part of it is it's just easier to do that stuff than it is to actually put myself out there.
Yeah. I get that. And there's also, can I ask how old you are, or in the range of?
I'm 47.
47. Okay, perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. Some people are really, I'm all like, I just turned 50. Woo. I don't really have a problem. Ask me when I'm, 60, I might be like, I don't want to tell it, but okay. So there's a couple things that I think are just that are popping for me. And this is kind of how I work. I like have conversation, then I'm just listening and looking at the design, but also sort of feeling what's popping the most that might be of contribution to you. And there's a couple things that are popping for me. One is your public role or profile, and another is your life theme that are popping specifically. And then we'll talk a little bit about the design as well. So one of the things that happens with the sixth line in the profile here is that you see the big picture from this high level place. And even, as a babe, like just even as a young child, you're probably looking around at your family going, am I the only one who actually sees what's happening here? But of course what is this reality? Because this is like, okay, who's the parent? Guess I got to be the parent, of course, depending on your, right, the whole setting, you're either empowered to do that or often disempowered to do that. Right. So, and I think each one of us has our own experience of our families that, are on a continuum of trauma or traumatic in that individuation, and then also being a part of the whole. But what happens is the 6-2 is that so we kind of think of it in thirds, your life in thirds, and the first roughly 20 from age 20 to 30-ish, right around there, like that first 20 to 30 years, you're really bumping into life, and life is bumping into you, and you're learning through the school of hard knocks, what works, what doesn't work. It's very much like the third line, and in there, just like, learning kinesthetically. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, that worked. That didn't work. Right. So you're kind of just figuring life out from that perspective, even though you still kind of have this like higher level, awareness of maybe what's really going on under the whole scene, but you're still in the physical world bumping up against things. And then from around, 25 to 50-ish, you're in, it looks like sort of like a caterpillar, and then the chrysalis and the butterfly. And so you're in that chrysalis stage where it's all gelling, right? You kind of come apart and then you come back together as like, what is that next evolution going to look like? And that's where you're processing and synthesizing that first 30 years of your life. And you're really distilling it into the essence of who you be and where you want to take all of this. And it's a little bit of a cocooning type of phase. And, if you think about it that way, I'm not saying that this is the reason why you're not being as visible, but it could be part of it, right? It could be one natural thing that's happening that makes sense to me, why it would be. You're just sort of like, I know who I am, and I know where I'm going, and I know all my stuff, but I'm still figuring out how to really be that in the world. I'm still synthesizing that. And then after age 50 or so, you really step into that role model that like, here I am, and stepping into that power, stepping into that expression, and kind of get, it's who I'm being. And, I am. I noticed just turning 50, I had this like, wow, you know what? 50 is awesome. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff that you just kind of toss out because you're like, fuck it, I'm 50. You know what I mean? So there's this kind of cool. So I just want to pause there and see, does that resonate with you?
That actually does. Because and the other thing is, I know I'm an introvert.
Yeah.
I'm an extroverted introvert.
Yes.
I'm good at public speaking. I'm good at, I can hold a crowd. I can hold my own. I know my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not where I get my energy. I have to have that alone time. And so it's all it does make sense, and it does kind of encourage me a little bit that, okay, because one of the things that I've noticed is I'm great at getting the ideas, ooh, I should do this program. Ooh, I should do this program. And I launch it and it goes nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, it's probably part of that process of the ingredients are there,
Mm-hmm.
just, waiting for the final form to show up.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So there's two things about that. One is the energy or the ideas. So let's talk about the ideas, and then I'm going to come back to this, where you get your energy and where it gets pulled off track. So we're going to come back to this duality here in a second. But and I've talked about this with another guest as well, but it bears repeating. And so here you have the inspiration and conceptualization, or the crown and ajna centers, undefined. And I also have them undefined. And if you think about it this way, the shadow of this crown is trying to answer everybody else's questions. And whether or not those questions are even verbally asked to you. So it could just be that it's like a radio antenna, your radio antenna, the bandwidth is all of the universe, not just a specific bandwidth. You're pulling in information from all over the place. And you're kind of, I can say this for myself too, again, I have them undefined, it's like we can hear the questions that people are asking. We can download and hear those questions, and oftentimes think that because we heard the question, we're supposed to answer it. We're supposed to create something for that. We're supposed to, that would be a great idea. And then I got to create this whole thing. And then we can get either it doesn't go anywhere because it really wasn't our question to answer, or it's like, it's a really fun distraction that keeps us feeling like we're super busy. And of course you have the channel of busy here, the 3420. It keeps us really busy. So we feel like we're in action. We feel like we're doing something, but we're actually really not doing the thing that we're supposed to be doing. Right. And then we have this open mind that's very flexible, and the shadow there is feeling like we have to convince other people that we know what we're talking about. So then you have this idea and you're like, oh, well, that could be cool. Well, let me spend a lot of time researching how I can prove that I know how this works. And I'll convince everybody that this is the way to go. And again, it can be like something brilliant, probably like your book was an idea that came in, but it was for you. That's why it came out. It was able to be shared. And what I shared with this other person is I have the rule of threes. So if an idea comes once, you're like, oh, that's interesting. And it has a pop to it, has some energy to it. You're like, oh, that's interesting. If it comes twice, you're like, okay, I'm paying attention. If it comes 3 times, then you're like, okay, now I'm going to really pay attention. Now I'm going to put it to the test of my authority, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes. But I want to pause there and just see, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Because
Yeah.
I think a lot of the programs, a lot of the stuff that I've created in the past might have been that, oh, this needs to be out there, but it wasn't for me to do.
Yeah, exactly. And it's probably for your client, or it's like it's really great for that client or something like that. But when you really sit with it and contemplate it, it's like, oh, that would have been really fun, but it's a distraction. I mean, I can't tell you like how many of those I've also done. So I feel you. I really get that. It's crazy. And yet it's so fun to have all those ideas. It's just so cool to have all of that coming in, and it's fun. It's fun to play with them and create and all of that. So
Right.
I get that too. So let's look at this left angle cross of duality, because I suspect that this is actually a big, you've actually pointed to it several times during this conversation. And I have a feeling that this may actually help you to make some sense of what's going on there. And then I want to give you maybe a practical tip or two about how to work with it. So I want you to think about it this way. So we have circuitry in our design that is tribal, collective, and individual. And I'm not going to go through all of that right here, but I'm just going to point out what you have. And the first part of your life theme is very individual. It's in an individual circuit. So the 3420 is this one right here. And it is an individual expression. It's an individual knowing. It's all about, the 34 is all about power. And it's about like pure, raw power. And it is because it's coming out of the sacral center. And the sacral center is life force energy. It's chi, prana, right? It is pure raw power. The 34, however, is the most asexual of all of those traits there, all those gates. It is literally just pure raw power. But it's for us. And I say us because I also have the 34, trait 34. And it's not for us to give to others. It's for us to use for ourselves. And in the using it for ourselves and empowering ourselves, we share from that place and others benefit. It's not about giving them our power. It's about really using that power for ourselves and what we love and what enlivens us. And then as an expression of that, we are in service to others. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So it's super individual. Now, this 3740 is right here, and it's the second half. It's the unconscious half. So if this is the conscious half of your life theme, and this is the unconscious half of your life theme, it's tribal. And so this is what it means by the duality, is that you are, on the one hand, extremely individual, and you do your own thing. You are your own person. You know what you know intuitively. It's like a deep inner, I don't need anybody else, right, type of thing, knowing. The tribe, however, right, you're also deeply tribal in that unconscious way. And so what happens is there's a battle almost constantly going on between being extremely individual and yet very attuned to the tribe and to being the glue that holds the tribe together, sort of feeling called to always be a part of the tribe and yet at the same time be yourself as an individual in the tribe. And the thing that we know about tribes is that part of what makes a tribe stick together, a tribe is like a family or a business. Mm-hmm. Part of what makes a tribe stick together is that everybody sort of loses their individuality a little bit. You kind of follow the rules and you do what the tribe does. And then a tribe is just, or the collective is sort of a bunch of tribes made up together to be the collective. Now, the tribe and the collective are very wary of the individual, because the tribe and the collective, especially tribes, have their way of doing things. They have their rituals and their customs. And, it's very much about staying safe and protecting, right? This is so primal. I mean, this is like primal human, how we've survived the millennia, right? It's very wary of the individual because change comes from the individual. And one of the things I love about human design is it literally maps our evolution as a species. We can see how this happens. And so here you are. On the one hand, you're so attuned to the tribe and what the tribe needs in order to stay together, in order to survive, in order to stay connected. And yet you're also deeply individual, and you know what needs to happen for us to evolve. And the tribe is inherently suspicious of the individual. And so on the one hand, you're like, I'm an introvert. I feel safer when I just am not out there, because there's a part of you that knows the tribe will eat you alive if they don't like your message.
Right.
And so it makes perfect sense to me that you would be going back and forth, like, who am I? You're both. So I'm going to just pause for a second before I go say anything else. And how does that land, and what's popping for you around that?
Well, it's interesting because, like I said, I'm working on this novel, and one of the things that kind of stopped me in the writing of this novel was trying to decide which which, I'm like, I could do it this way or I could do it that way. And I went through an exercise this week where I sent it out to about 7 people that I know, love, and trust, and said, okay, look, here are 2 versions of the same chapter. What do you think? So it's interesting because I've got that, that individual aspect of being able to create this thing, but still that idea of I need input. I feel like I need input on which direction to go. And now that I have it, and people have shared, and I agree with them, now I feel like I can move on. So it's, no, this is landing pretty solid.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's look also what's happening there too, is that you have a split definition. And so the place where the pressure is the most potent, where the fastest way to bridge the gap in your split is right here at the 45. And so here we have, here's your tribal and then the individual. So it makes sense to me that you're reaching out to your tribe to help you to bridge that gap and to collaborate, because you're here to collaborate. So if you're working only by yourself, even though you have a lot of individuality in your design, you are also here to work in collaboration with others. And that doesn't mean you have to do everything in partnership. It just means that there's a dialogue there so that people can help bridge that split for you. And one of the things that keeps popping for me is that the beauty of your design in that duality is to, as the individual, spark and inspire and really ignite change, and to also know how does the tribe need to hear it in a way that will allow them to receive it and transform. And that's what I feel, that's the thing that I keep getting, is that that's what you're working on in the novel and in your work in general. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. So one of the things, going back to the whole, the power is just for you, is the analogy that I share with others who have the 34 is that it's sort of like we have a vial, pretend this is a necklace that has a little vial of power, liquid, cool, shimmery, liquid power. I often think of it in sort of like if you've seen the Wonder Woman movie, where the bad guy, that evil doctor, made those smelling salt things, and he'd sniff it and then he'd get rage monster, only in a good way. not like that dude, but energetically, that's it. It's our own smelling salts, our own power, and we wear it around our neck. Other people can see it, because remember, we communicate energetically first and foremost, so other people can recognize that you have this power, right? And but it's only for you. And when you pass it out, or you let other people, hey, here, I'll give you a little bit of my power, whether that's a distraction or something like that, if you are but mostly it's going to be other people, if you're, even your clients, right, and the people that you're working with, if you're oh, here, let me give you some of this power, they're oh, that's so great, thank you, and they can become dependent on it. And or when you need it, you're depleted, there's nothing left. And it's really about you being the one who uses it, and then you're, from that place of empowerment, you share that power and you empower others from this place of fullness in yourself and empowerment in yourself. And that is something that can very quickly get depleted, because we are used to just coming in and helping people. It's so easy to heal and to help people with this power, because literally it's like raising the dead type of power. I mean, you come in and you're just like, okay, here's what we got to do this, this, and this. And the person's like, I feel so much better. And you go, yeah, right. And then you might afterwards go, oh my God, I'm so tired. And then you go home and you're like, all I have bandwidth for is watching television, or all I have the energy for right now. I'm exhausted. I've really tapped out and I just need to like check out a little bit. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. And fatigue is one of it's a huge issue in my life.
Yeah.
Huge. I'm almost always exhausted.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's pause there for a moment and just take a little break, and we'll come back and see if maybe we can help with what that exhaustion, like what's popping for me in the design that may be able to help you shift that just a little bit. Does that sound good?
That sounds amazing.
All right, cool. Are you clear what you're creating in the next 12 months, or do you flip-flop, or maybe start strong then fizzle out? If this sounds like you, I have 2 resources for you. First is a clarity visualization session. It's a free downloadable guided visualization to not only help you connect with what your heart and soul truly want to create, you're also going to get clear if it's really your heart's desire or what you think you should create based on what other people say is important. This is so essential to creating the right goals that are worthy of you. You're also going to see how ready you are to take action on that dream or goal. For those of you who are clear on what you want to create, but you keep getting distracted, second-guessing yourself, and wondering why everyone else seems to make it look so easy while you struggle, I recommend the Design Synthesis Session or ongoing coaching. The Design Synthesis Session is similar to how I work with my guests here on the show, but we're going to go deeper and get even more fine-tuned with your specific design than I have time to do here with my guests. You can also check out upcoming classes and programs to support you in your life and business. Now, back to the show. Okay, welcome back. We're talking to Jon-Paul. We are looking at this piece around exhaustion. So if you look at my friend here, he has got a lot defined in his chart. You have a lot of energy in your chart. A lot of things going on. I'm just going to erase these things so we can start anew. So one of the things to be aware of is that you are designed to be busy. You have the channel of busy, but it's about being busy doing things that bring you satisfaction. Things that bring you satisfaction. If you are feeling frustrated, this is that not self theme. If you're feeling frustrated, it's because you're probably doing things that you are not for you to do, or you're pushing. It's like Sisyphus. You're just working super hard, but not getting anywhere. It's about waiting to respond and being properly motivated, or making decisions to step into and put all that life force energy that you have. All of this, we have 4 motor centers. You have 3 of them defined: willpower, or the heart, emotional intelligence, or the solar plexus, and the sacral. You have the root, or drive and stamina, is the 4th motor center. You don't have that defined, but you have 3 of them defined. And with the amount of willpower that you have, you can make stuff happen in like 5 minutes that would take other people 5 hours. I mean, you can bang stuff out like super fast, right? If you put your
mind to it. Yeah,
exactly. And that right there, if you put your mind to it, is exactly part of the problem, right? Because the mind, just think of it like this is empty space. This is like, just use it for downloading character and novel information, not for anything else, right? If your heart isn't in something, don't do it.
Okay.
If your heart isn't in it, don't do it. It's not worth it, because you have a ton of willpower there and you can get it done. But just because you can get it done does not mean you should get it done. And just because you feel obligated to do it does not mean that you should do it, right? So with all this energy over here, that's happening over here, and that makes you that manifesting generator or express builder in the business terms. Remember, it's not connected. So this whole area where you're, really making decisions with emotional clarity, there's a disconnect between your initial gut hit of or and then using your emotional clarity to make the full decision. So the way I look at it is it's like a double opt-in. So your gut, something comes across and you're like, that's popping for me, that I'm attracted to that, or no thanks. But either way, that or is just in that moment. But you need to use a little extra time to explore how you feel about it. So the way again, a double opt-in is like, you're like, that looks good. And so it's just like an opt-in, like put your name and email in there, and then you get the confirmation email and you look at that and you go, why the hell did I sign up for that like that? I don't even want, like, what's that? Like, why did I do that? And so you just don't, and then it's a no, right? You don't confirm. And so it's a no. Or you confirm, you go, yes, in fact, I do want that. That is, I'm clear. I want that. And it's like that. There's a pause in between the initial yes, and you take some time, go into the email, click to confirm, that type of thing. For really big decisions, you want to give yourself at least 24 hours, because you need to feel all the waves, the up and down, the like, yeah, this is the best thing ever. And the, oh my God, why bother? This sucks. Or if I don't do it, I'll miss out. Right? Like that's the bottom of the wave. The top of the wave is like, oh, this is the best thing ever. I'm going to do this. It's going to change everything. This is the thing. Right? And so then you say yes. And when you say yes, there is a dynamic that happens. So you say yes, and then you throw yourself into the experience. You become one with the experience. And as you're like a full-on yes and in the experience, you kind of forget everything else that's happening, and you can just completely lose yourself in the experience, which you are designed to do, but you just want to make sure it's the right experience for you, the correct experience for you, that will bring satisfaction, that will bring that sense of contribution to your life. Remember, it's not just about being busy to be busy. It's about being, it's doing things that feed you. As much as you're giving to it, it's giving back to you. And it may not be a direct thing. It's just, it's that contribution. Does that make sense, where you might get exhausted?
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out the mechanics of that, how that would like actually work out in real life. But no,
right. Yeah. That might be a longer discussion, but there's there's definitely, these are just like the things that are popping right at the higher level. So the key, if I was just to say one thing around this, is give yourself time to decide, like before you say yes to things. Obviously, when you go out to eat dinner, or you're at a restaurant, you got to make a quick decision. Obviously, you're going to just make the decision there. But if you're talking about like, am I going to invest my time, my money, my energy in a project or a, something, even a car or a house, whatever, that you're really waiting for that emotional clarity before you fully say yes. Because once you say yes, it's really hard to pull out and stop. We regenerator types are kind of the great quitters, because we say yes, we're like, oh, we got all this energy, let's do stuff. And then we get in there and we're like halfway through and we go, I'm exhausted. Why am I doing this? And it's usually the exhaustion is because you're doing too much. Like there's just, it's like, and you have all this willpower. And what happens is that you say yes, and you're like, well, I'm obligated. I don't want to look like a flake. And people are relying on me. They're counting on me. This is, I've got to do it. And all of that creates a lot of pressure. And then there's one other place that I think it kind of, if we were to look at it, from where we started this conversation, a little bit around shadow, is that the shadow of this drive and stamina or root, this is the pressure. It's a pressure center or function that everything starts here. The energy starts here. The pressure starts here. It's the pressure to take action. It's the pressure to do things. And you're not designed to withstand all of that pressure. You're here to really feel that pressure and make sure that you're doing the correct things. And yet we live in a culture that says, you got to keep going. Like, let's do this. Let's get it done. Come on, hurry up, make a decision. Let's go. And yet, so there's all this pressure to move and to jump and to take action and to take all that energy you have above that and do something with it. Come on. What are you taking so long for? Why don't you just know, right? Like, hurry up.
Right.
And so oftentimes you'll say, okay, fine, I'll just do it to relieve the pressure, because the shadow is that it's jumping in and taking action, thinking that will release the pressure, but it doesn't. It ends up making it so that you just end up doing more and and just being like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. Make sense?
Yeah.
So that's where I think some of that dynamic may be coming in, where you're feeling that like, God, I have all this energy. I want to do something with it. I'm feeling a lot of pressure from outside of me. Remember, you're taking that pressure and amplify it in these open or undefined centers. And then you're like, okay, let me just get it off my plate. Okay, I'll go ahead and do this. And I'll say yes. And, oh yeah, that too. Okay. And then no wonder, I mean, I'm tired just thinking about it. I'm going to go watch television myself and go have a drink, actually.
So do I.
Yeah. Is it cocktail hour yet? Somewhere it is. On your coast it is.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway, so I'm just curious, like, if this, how's this landing, and is there any other questions or ahas that you have around?
Yeah, it's landing pretty solid, and it's making me question a couple of things that I've started and I'm working through in my life. Yeah, I think the whole idea of definitely the idea of threes. If there are three nudges, then okay. Yeah. I need to move on this, because oftentimes what will happen is I'll get one nudge and immediately launch into, oh my God, I need to do this.
Yep.
But then also the idea of waiting at least 24 hours before doing something that's really resonating. Yeah.
And really tapping in and going, I say your pilot light is, okay, I have this colored in, so my pilot light is always lit. I'm always ready for action. Like, I'm ready to jump into action. When I wake up in the morning, my feet hit the floor and I'm like, let's go. That's normal for me. It's easy for me. For you, your normal would be like, let me just ease into the day, wait till my pilot light gets lit. That is your that's normal for you. That's how you operate correctly. But if you're like, oh my God, I got all this stuff to do, I got to hurry. And so then you start, and then you say yes to things, and then, you have all this energy, so you do it. But I mean, it's like, so I would just like, wait till you're properly lit. wait till you're good and lit before you say yes. And that give yourself space, John. Give yourself space to know who and where that pressure is coming from, and to, this is the pressure to figure it out, and this is the pressure to take action. And so just noticing that we have this sandwich of pressure right there, and you've got all this energy that's like wants to do something. Like, what if you gave yourself just a little bit of space to experience that pressure without having to be driven by it, and trust in that process, and that those things that bring you a deep sense of satisfaction, do more of that. And if you're feeling frustrated, it's just an indicator that you've said yes to someone or something that would be better off just setting it aside, and either it will take care of itself, which it often does, or it's something where you go, you know, I'm realizing this really isn't for me. And you hand it over to someone else, or you say, no, I'm complete. I need to be done with it. You have full permission in other words, to look at your life and go, if my heart isn't in this, or this, bye-bye. It's just not worth it. It affects your heart. You know, it's just not worth it.
Yeah, that's powerful right there, what you just said.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah. This is so, I mean, we could just sit here for another, maybe I'd go get a cocktail. We could just sit here for a couple hours, but thank you for being here. Thank you for, you know, allowing us to look at your design and just see. I know this has been so helpful to other people to hear this and look at this and understand it. And I hope it's been helpful for you as well.
Oh, it really has. It
Awesome. Awesome. I'm going to come off the stop sharing here and just say thank you again. It's always a pleasure hanging out with you. And I can't wait to read your novels. And yet, you know, just in the right time, there's no pressure. It'll come. Yeah. Thank you again. And like I said, hey, you guys, if you want to know more about Jon-Paul Rippetoe and what he's up to and his novels, and check him out, I will have his information on our show notes page. And hopefully this has been helpful for you as well. So thanks again, Jon-Paul. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us in this episode of the Living Design Podcast. Head over to chrisprochaska.com and check out the resources I have for you to expand your energy intelligence, boost your creative potential, and profit with purpose, all in alignment with your design. Remember to choose goals that are worthy of you and your natural energetic design. It's a hell of a lot more fun to live and make money that way than trying to be someone you're not. You've got a genius that can only come through you. Wouldn't now be a good time to share it? Until next time, take care.